Hello everyone, it's Robin the Delta Crafter, and I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. October is just around the corner, and that means that we'll be celebrating Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That also means that we'll be celebrating Halloween coming at the end of the month. Today I'm going to share with you a breast cancer awareness card that I'm going to make using some products from Tim Holtz. First up is the Shifter Harlequin Stencils. This is a 3-pack of stencils that was a part of Tim's Halloween release last year from Stampers Anonymous. I'm also going to be using the Jack-o'-lantern die from Hero Arts. I'll also be bringing in the Hello There XL Stampin' Cut, also from Hero Arts. You guys know how much I love my distress ink, so I have 3 shades of distress ink that we'll be using today. We're going to be using Weathered Wood, Spun Sugar, and Kitsch Flamingo. I'll be making this card today using some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White paper in 80-pound weight. Let's go ahead and get started with our creation today. So this pack of stencils that Tim released last Halloween is a set of 3 stencils. There's a small, a medium, and a large. We're going to be using the medium stencil today. In Tim's video on his Halloween release, when he showed these stencils, he suggested that you take some black acrylic paint and you rub that paint over the stencils to make the etched diamonds more pronounced. So I've done that with my stencil, and I have to say it really does help a lot. So I'm going to be bringing in this stencil and my piece of Neenah Classic Crest Solar Pound cardstock in 80-pound weight. And I'm going to be doing my first set of inking with Spun Sugar. In order to get that ready to go, I'm going to use some mint tape to tape my cardstock to the back of my stencil. And that will allow me to be able to ink blend my Spun Sugar through the front cutouts on the stencil. So I'm just going to bring in my ink blending brush. I'm going to load that up, and then I'm just going to go to my stencil and start to fill in my Harlequin shapes with my first color. We're going to be doing 2 colors to get our Harlequin background. We're going to be using the Spun Sugar as well as the Weathered Wood. So I'm just going to use this Spun Sugar. I'm going to fill in all the spaces in my Harlequin design. And now I'm going to reveal that, and you can get an idea of what this looks like with just one color. I think this is a beautiful background that could be used for any kind of card, but I really wanted the 2-color Harlequin design for this card. So now I'm going to go in with the second color rather. So now you can see why rubbing that black acrylic paint over the etched markings is really, really handy. Because now I'm taking the solid shapes, not the cutout shapes, but I placed that solid shape diamond over the part that I've already inked up. So that's going to give me perfect alignment for my second color, Weathered Wood. So I'm going to bring in my gray ink blending brush, and I'm going to load it up with that Weathered Wood, and I'm going to cover my entire, again, my open spaces of my stencil in order to lay down this gray. I did go ahead and clean my stencil in between, so I cleaned the pink off before I started to come in with the gray because I didn't want my colors to mix. And now when I pull that stencil back, you can see this 2-colored Harlequin design that we were able to quickly and easily create using this Harlequin stencil from Tim Holtz. I really, really like these stencils. I'll try to link all the products that I'm using today on my blog as well as below this video. So I'll try to link some places that you can pick up these stencils if they're still available. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to lay down some Kitsch Flamingo all over an entire piece of Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock. I'm doing this because I want to die cut my pumpkins out of this cardstock. I was going for a textural kind of depth feel with my my pumpkins. So instead of using pink cardstock, I decided to ink it up and kind of get that highs and lows that you get when you ink blend in a very light way. You can certainly use solid color cardstock if that's your preference, but this is just the look that I was going for for my card. So I'm going to die cut this pumpkin out 3 times because I want to have 3 pumpkins on my card, as well as I'm going to cut out some white pumpkins from white cardstock, 2 for each pink pumpkin. So I have a total of 6 white pumpkins there on my craft mat. I'm going to bring in that Kitsch Flamingo, and I'm going to darken up the edges of my pumpkins to give a little bit of depth and dimension. You guys know how much I like to add shading to my creations, because I just really can see the movement and the depth and dimension that the shading gives to my the inking gives to my creations. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to all 3 pumpkins and around the edges, and kind of come from the same angle so that it looks like my sun is shining from the right, and that makes my left side a little bit darker and more shaded. So now I'm going to come in on the little tops of my pumpkins. I'm going to color in the stems of my pumpkin using a gray alcohol ink marker. You can use whatever color marker you choose. I decided to stick very tightly within the color scheme for this card. So I'm going to color those stems gray, and I'm going to do that on all 3 of the tops or the caps to my pumpkins. So now that we have all of our inking done, our depth has been added, and our stems have been colored, now it's time to layer up all the pumpkins with all of the background pieces as well as the colored pieces. So again, for each pumpkin, I'm going to layer, it's going to be 3 layers thick. 2 layers of white cardstock, just any generic white cardstock that you may have, as well as 1 of the pink inked up and colored pumpkins on the very top. I'm going to place those under an acrylic block to apply a little bit of pressure and allow those to adhere and stick to each other very nicely. For my pumpkin tops, I'm going to place a foam square on the very top of them, but I'm going to place some liquid adhesive, that same craft tacky glue that I'm using there, that I used to glue them all together. I'm going to use that to glue the tops to the pumpkins. So you can see that I'm playing around with the arrangement, trying to figure out how I want these 3 pumpkins to go on my card. You may also notice that I've trimmed down my Harlequin panel to make it 3.5 inches by 5.5. So it's 3.5 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. So that's going to give us like a narrow panel down the middle of the card. This is a new kind of layout that I'm trying, and I really, really like the way it comes together at the end. So I think I've got my pumpkins laid out the way that I want them to be. So now I'm going to add the tops to the pumpkins, and that will help create the completed look for the pumpkins. I think the tops to the pumpkins just really make the pumpkins come alive. So I've added the tops to all of the pumpkins. Now it's time to glue them to our Harlequin background. So again, I'm using that craft tacky glue, and I'm going to place them kind of wonky on the background, because I don't want everything just kind of straight and head on. I want them to kind of look arranged a little bit. So I've got my second pumpkin, I'm laying that down, and now I'm going to put my third pumpkin down. And for the third pumpkin, because there's so many layers already on the background or on the panel, I'm going to need to pop that third pumpkin up with some foam tape. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm using my foam dots or foam tape, I want to make sure that I use every single piece. I don't want any of it going to waste. So you can see there on my foam dots, there's a little bit of border, and I use that as well because it works, especially for large die cuts like these pumpkins. So I'm using the Hello There Stamp and Cut set from Hero Arts to create my sentiment. This card will be going out to a coworker of mine who is currently battling breast cancer. And so I wanted her to know that I was thinking of her and that she's in my thoughts as she goes through this journey. So I decided to use the thinking of you sentiment from that stamp set. And I'm going to use that Weatherwood ink and stamp that a couple of times so that all my colors coordinate. I trimmed that sentiment down, popped it up with some foam tape, and now I'm going to apply that to my card panel. I'm going to place that right in the middle, and it's going to be the perfect sentiment for this card. Press that down a little bit, make sure that it's securely adhered. And now it's time to assemble our card. I wanted that panel to be popped up a little bit as well. There's going to be lots of dimension in this card. So I decided to put some foam tape on the back of that panel, the Harlequin panel, and that's going to pop it up from the card base. The card base is made using Accent Opaque 120-pound weight cardstock. And again, I'll have all these products listed and linked below the video and on my coordinating blog post. I thought that I was done with this card at this point, but I decided to come in with my Aqua Shimmer pen, my Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen, and add some shimmer and shine to the pumpkins. Again, this is going to a coworker, and she's a female, and so I wanted her to have a little bit of sparkle and shine on her card. So even though my pumpkins are all secured to my panel, I can still go around to the parts that are visible and the parts that I can reach, and I can cover them with this Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen. I'm covering up the last few spots with that sparkle pen, and now that the sparkle has been added, I can officially say this card is complete. I want to thank you for joining me for this video on my YouTube channel. If you have enjoyed it, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. You can always find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Delta Crafter and on my website, thedeltacrafter.com. But before we go, I want to bring in another card that I made using this Harlequin stencil set. I made one with the Halloween theme. So here it is using some Twisted Citron, some Villainous Potion, and I used the orange cardstock to cut out that pumpkin. I also used a little pumpkin face, the jack-o'-lantern face, to add a little bit more Halloween feel to this card. Thanks for stopping by and enjoy.